here we are halfway through 2026, and it's been an interesting year thus far. It's May 20th today, and we're going to talk about identity and reconstruction of identity. And what I do as a coach and as a mentor is I work with people and I help them reconstruct their entire identity. Now, that being said, here we are in the middle of 2026, and a lot of you might be going through a lot of difficult times. When we get hit with divorce, when we get hit with a breakup, we get hit with a lawsuit, we get hit with all kinds of negative things. And suddenly, the identity takes a massive hit. Massive hit. But we have to really have a look at the word identity, what it means, and what we can actually do. Now, what strengthens identity overall is the connection between what you believe, what you focus on, and how you live out what you believe. That right there is a crucial idea. Now, those aren't the only things. I have an entire path and an entire continuum when I work with people from start to finish. A strong identity is indeed created through some unique ideas. The very first one is taking action on a consistent level, all the time. Being able to take action. Now, most of you might say, well, how is that even possible? Like, what does action do? Well, when you do meaningful behaviors over time, consistently, it creates self-trust. So you have to be able to trust yourself. And part of having a strong identity is having a strong self-trust. So take a look at exercise, for example. When you take action and you actually do a workout and exercise, what that does is you get evidence. And with that evidence, it gives you proof. And with that proof, you become more confident. And that being said, it's not just action by itself. If that was the case, anybody could work out and then brilliantly just be confident overnight. And it's not just action, it's consistent action. So you have to do the same meaningful behaviors over time because what you do and what you say have to match. And a lot of people break that relationship with themselves, is that what they say and what they do don't match. They don't line up. People say, oh, I'll do that, and then they never get to it. So you have to have a clear understanding of what your values are, what you value. And there's people that say, I don't even know what my values are. We have to be able to know what matters in your life, what is truly important, what matters in your life, and what doesn't, what connects to you on the inside in a very strong way. Now, values are important. Now, the biggest difficulty with this is, well, what's a value? Most people don't understand what a value actually is. A value is something that you believe as an idea, but it's actionable. Let me give you the example of honesty. So honesty is a value. It's not just an idea. It's a value. Because if I ask you to watch my dog for a week, that's an action that you have to take. And in order to be honest, you have to be able to prove to me that you're able to take care of my dog for 1 week. And you have to be able to provide evidence with that. So what does that honesty look like? Because I'm asking you for the value of honesty, to be honest and to take care of that dog and be reliable. So not just honesty, but reliability as well. So we have to look at, what does reliability look like? What does honesty look like? Because those two things right there are going to prove to me that you're honest and reliable to actually take care of my dog. And when you prove that to me, that builds my relationship with you. When you prove that to yourself, that also builds a relationship with yourself when you actually prove it to yourself. So you have to have that clear understanding of what you value. Knowing what matters is crucial because there's going to be things that seem like a value and it's really not. Values are actionable. Let's get that very clear. Now, another big problem, the biggest problem of them all with identity is attention span and the ability to control our attention. I think that people are feeling that in the hardest way in 2026. That what you repeatedly focus on will completely mold your perception, mold your reality, mold your life, your self-image, and most of all, help you deal with your emotions. And we are carrying little devices on our back pockets that have become the next distraction tool. So attention control is important. In order for you to have a strong identity, you have to be able to control your attention. Now, that doesn't mean you have to have a perfect attention span, but you have to be able to guide your attention towards meaning and value. That's the start. And when we look at the development, when you have to develop your life, when you develop yourself, you develop your identity, you have that responsibility. You have to have that responsibility that you're carrying actual responsibilities. Like if you take care of my dog, that's a responsibility. That brings growth and self-trust. That gives structure to who you are. It gets added onto your identity. Now, when it comes to meaning, we are meaning-making machines, and we do form memories through experiences. You're going to have difficult challenges. You're going to have meaningful work. You're going to have painful relationships, travel, all those different things. But being able to take a risk creates psychological strength. That's what it does. The risk doesn't have to be huge. That's the thing. The risk is often thought to be big, and it's really not the case. You can take several tiny, consistent, small risks, and that will build up your identity. Really simple. When you take action and there's evidence, you gain competence from that. Competence. That competence leads to confidence. That's what's really crucial. So you strengthen your own self-respect. But the hard part is getting to that place, right? How do we get to that place? Well, there's a giant pathway, a continuum that I use when I work with people. And boundaries are a big deal too, because you wind up letting other people weaken your identity through doing the wrong things, getting involved with the wrong people, right? Because every outside influence can impact you, can reshape your thinking. So you have to have boundaries with people, but you also have to have boundaries with yourself. So you see how this forms is the inner world also has to be the outer world. That comes to keeping promise to yourself as well as keeping promises to other people. Now, it is important to be reflective and have solitude. I think there's a fine line difference between having solitude, emotional reflection, and of course, isolation and escapism. And people have a tendency to get the many words confused. To have solitude is to have that quiet time to reflect. And what some people do is they have quiet time, they get bored, and they escape. And when they do, they're actually hurting their identity with habits like, social media addiction and so on. So when you do have the time away for your brain to have that solitude, to have that ability to reflect, it helps you to hear your own thoughts that are going on in your head, rather than you absorbing everyone else's. And that's what social media will do, is that you'll wind up having a social media addiction and you'll absorb the thoughts of the entire world. And you got to keep in mind, it's okay to have education, but to what extent are you actually absorbing the opinions, beliefs, and ideas of the rest of the world? Like, what part of that is actually you? And that's where we have to get into it. Like, where are your values, right? You could learn things from the outside world, but what actually gets utilized? Keeping promises to yourself is crucial, because when you're going to be in relationships with people, whether it's business, romance, or not, you have to keep promises to yourself. Every promise that you break to you will be the fastest way that you hurt your identity, okay? It happens all the time. If someone is like in a relationship and they're part of that relationship, there's addiction involved, they will get involved with that person and they will break promises to themselves because of the chemical dependency or an addiction. And now they've absolutely destroyed their own identity as a result. It's almost like you're internally selling yourself out at best. So keeping promises to yourself and to other people is the fastest way to build that internal solidarity that's inside of you. And that is a crucial thing, because there is evidence. When you keep promises to yourself, there's evidence. There's action and there's evidence. Now, you are going to go through suffering. There is going to be a level of suffering in life, and we're going to have some struggle. We're not talking about physical suffering here. We're talking about meaningful suffering. Struggle can be useful, because what it can do is move you in the direction of growing. It serves a purpose. It'll strengthen your identity. That's why we see a lot of these success cases of people like, oh, I've been through hell and I came out on the other side and I feel even stronger as a result. And that happens a lot. So it's not that suffering supports your identity. It's that meaningful suffering and being able to grab meaning from it, because we're meaning-making machines. So your identity is not just a thought or just several ideas. You can't avatar your way through that. It doesn't work. It is a straight up pattern. And if you want to work with me, and we'll work on it, your attention, your behavior, your emotions, your environment, your memory, all of those things. Because guess what? At the end of the day, is identity strengthens when your actions are being utilized repeatedly and they confirm who you believe you are indeed becoming. So that's the deal. Feel free to reach out to me if you want to do some work with me. We could totally do that. I work with all walks of life. Okay, I've worked with people in the coffee shops working retail and the people with a six-figure salary that turn over money internationally. So I've worked with all different kinds of people. I am what you call the identity reconstruction mechanic. It's just a fun way of putting it. We will work together. I don't work with everyone. I'll be honest with you. I'll be very straightforward. I will be very transparent with everybody here online. I don't work with everyone. We got to see if we are a good fit. Because there are going to be certain cases where therapy will be advised or other people will be able to help you better than I could. But in terms of identity and reconstructing it, if there's a fit, we'll work together. Don't forget to find my form. You could message me through my email form right through Podbean, and we'll have a discussion. We'll talk about it. We'll go from there. We'll see if we're the right fit. Have a great day. Take care.